Not Old Better Show Prevention Magazine Healthy Living Interview Series on radio and podcast. The show covering all things health, wellness, culture, and more. The show for all of us who aren't old, we're better. Each week, we'll interview superstars, experts, and ordinary people doing extraordinary things, all related to this wonderful experience of getting better, not just older. Now, here's your host, the award-winning Paul Vogelzang.
Welcome to the Not Old Better Show Prevention Magazine monthly Healthy Living Interview Series. I'm your host, Paul Vogelzang, and today's Prevention Magazine October episode is brought to you by UnitedHealthcare Medicare Plans. At UnitedHealthcare, we provide coverage you can count on for your whole life ahead. We have a jam-packed show today. We are exploring a topic that is both simple and profound, the power of walking. Our guest is the inspiring Joyce Shulman. She's been here before. She's the co-founder of 99 Walks. She's author of the best-selling book, Why Walk? She's TED Talk famous. And Joyce will join us as we lace up our shoes and experience the transformative benefits of walking. Joyce Shulman will join us in just a few minutes, but up first are two audience favorites here on the Not Old Better Show Prevention Magazine monthly Healthy Living series. The senior health editor, nutrition and fitness expert Alyssa Young will be here, and Kaitlyn Phoenix, deputy editor for Hearst Health News Room. They're going to join us and share their perspectives, their insights, and special touches on the October Prevention Magazine issue. With Alyssa Young and Kaitlyn Phoenix, we're going to be talking about important, relevant, and timely health topics from the October issue, like breast health, earworms, and finding the right weight-neutral doctor. Then Alyssa will tell us about the cover story, Walk Away the Pain, setting us up to hear from Why Walk author Joyce Shulman. Let's welcome Kaitlyn Phoenix and Alyssa Young. Kaitlyn Phoenix, deputy editor, Hearst Health Newsroom. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul.
It is good to talk to you. We're going to talk today about the October issue of Prevention Magazine, just chock-a-block full of some wonderful pieces. I know you've had a hand in many of those. I'd really love to just jump right in and talk about this. We will talk in a minute or two with your colleague Alyssa Young about Walking Away Pain, but that's a cover story. But there's also a sub-cover story that struck me as being breaking news, that this was just so important, and in particular important to our audience, and that's on the subject of breast health. It's a focus of the October issue, and it really identifies some very practical steps that women can take to lower the risk and to just stay proactive. I wonder if you just tell us about a couple of those steps that the women in our audience can take to make sure and just stay on top of this.
Of course. So definitely the first step that you can do is to make sure you're up to date on mammograms. The most recent recommendations, which just changed from the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force, say that women with an average or high risk should have a 2D or 3D mammogram every 2 years, starting at age 40. If you have special circumstances like a genetic mutation that puts you at risk, or you've had breast cancer in the past, ask your doctor when they think you should be screened, because these new recommendations don't cover for that. But definitely, first thing you can do is make sure you're up to date on mammograms. Beyond that, the next thing is exercising regularly. I know we hear this over and over again, but
absolutely.
Inflammation plays a big role in cancer, and exercise helps lower the amount of inflammation that's in the body. So there is research behind that. Similarly, limiting alcohol. They say even one drink every night can increase your risk of developing breast cancer by 7%. And that also goes back to the inflammation. And again, following a plant-forward, high-fiber, anti-inflammatory diet. And you might think, oh, it's not going to do much. But they do say with every additional 10 grams of fiber that a woman gets every day, her breast cancer risk drops by 7%.
Wow.
So if you're limiting your alcohol and you're following a high-fiber diet, then those are two things that you can do right there to cut your risk. Then we also have considering your hormone use. This one is not as cut and dry as the other recommendations, but some research previously found that higher levels of estrogen might increase a woman's breast cancer risk. However, hormone therapy can be very beneficial for many postmenopausal women. So it's something that you should discuss with your doctor and kind of weigh the pros and cons for your specific situation. And the last thing that's especially important is just to know the signs of breast cancer. You can go to cdc.gov and it lists them out. Things like a lump or thickening or swelling on part of the breast, redness, flaky skin, irritation, or nipple discharge that's not breast milk, changes in size, pain. So you really just want to pay attention to your breast, know what's normal for you, know what's not, and then speak up to your doctor. Don't be afraid to say something. Hey, is this normal, to your doctor if you think something's a little off.
Mm-hmm. So helpful, Kaitlyn. I think the research and science changes it. We know more. And so for the women in our audience, the women in our lives, just good to stay on top of this kind of thing. Check out the breast health focus in the October issue of Prevention Magazine. Another piece that jumped out at me because I just didn't really know what it was, Kaitlyn. That's the piece about.
I didn't either, actually.
Okay, good. I don't feel quite.
Until I heard that this story was in the works.
It's a great term, and I suppose I should know this, and it completely makes sense. The term is earworms. I just love that, but it's not what you think, audience. It's kind of catchy tunes that just hang around. So tell us about this because there is some positive impact on mental health, perhaps some negative too, but really this is an important subject.
Yeah, so an earworm is like a song or a phrase that gets stuck in your head and plays itself over and over again. I think we can all relate when a song gets stuck in your head. And these are totally normal. They don't usually have an impact on your mental health, but in some cases they can be linked to like intrusive thoughts that people with OCD experience. But they do say that the reason this happens is that earworms are closely related to memory. So the same reason how kids learn the ABCs by singing them, experts say they're kind of like a cognitive itch that the brain automatically scratches, causing more itching and resulting in this annoying loop going on in your head. And interestingly, if you're prone to daydreaming or you're a musician, you may be more likely to have this happen to you.
Yeah, I love music and I've always got something. I don't necessarily play music when I work, but I typically have something in my head because I exercise to music. And so I exercise to those tunes that are catchy to begin with. And then some will just stay all day. They'll just be there forever. And I think it improves my mood.
Oh, definitely. Oh my goodness. I have a toddler and her little toys and stuff have songs that they sing and those get stuck in my head. Even when I'm not with her, I'll be like singing a little song in my head.
That's funny. That's good. Well, good to hear of all that you've got going on. And certainly this piece is an important one. We will have links so that you can find out more information about Kaitlyn Phoenix, all of the work that she's done on October Prevention Magazine, including these great articles on earworms and breast health. And I really just have one final question for you, Kaitlyn. I like this title too, Come As You Are. It's a great way to, I think, have a perspective on life, to just be there and come as who you are. But it's about finding a weight neutral doctor, which can be really challenging for some people because doctors tend to be focused on weight. They want to weigh, they want to do all the things that are associated with that. But you can actually choose a doctor that is going to listen to your concerns without focusing on the weight. So tell us a little bit about the article and maybe where it came from and why it's important to us.
Yeah, research shows that people in larger bodies are less likely to go to the doctor because they've faced discrimination in the past. Either their doctor only focuses on their weight when, say, they have a stomachache or ankle pain, they will focus only on their weight instead of the actual problem at hand, or they will make comments saying that they need to lose weight without recognizing how difficult it actually is to lose weight and maintain that weight. And then on top of this, the fact that not every health issue is linked to weight. You can be in a bigger body and be perfectly healthy. So to get at this, there are some organizations now who are trying to make it easier for people to find a weight neutral doctor. So a doctor who is committed to providing healthcare without focusing on your weight, unless, of course, your weight is linked to the issue that you want to be addressed. So there are a few ways that you can go about this. There are different websites that I know you'll link to, but the organizations like Health at Every Size Healthcare, Provider Listing, Bear Health, the Non-Diet Providers List, the Weight Neutral providers have a list as well. There's a bunch of resources out there, but right now there are things you can even do with your own doctor that you regularly go to try to make your experience better. If you don't want to switch, you can call ahead and ask whether the office offers weight neutral care, if they have gowns or blood pressure cuffs that are designed for larger bodies. You can decline the weigh-in. There's no rule that says you must be weighed unless there's something like a medication that needs to be prescribed based on your weight. In most cases, your weight isn't necessary, so you can decline that. If you're uncomfortable declining that, you can always bring a friend or a family member to go in there with you and help provide you with support to advocate for yourself. And you can also lastly ask some pointed questions like, do thin people get this same health issue that you're treating me for? Or what do you recommend for thin people with this health issue? You can request that dieting or weight not be a topic of your visit. There are ways that you can set boundaries or stand up for yourself, but admittedly it is very difficult and hard and it takes practice. So don't beat yourself up over this, but also don't think you're alone because many people are in the same boat.
Thank you. That's kind of how I feel. I feel like there's just a real focus in October's issue on becoming more aware. We talked about breast health and just staying on top of it. No idea there was an earworm, and now I'm more aware. And so I think we do need to be a little more sensitive to each other and understand the health-related concerns, but also that somebody's weight impacts them in very different ways. Kaitlyn Phoenix, what a great conversation. Of course, Kaitlyn is Deputy Editor, Hearst Health News Room. I hope you'll come back, Kaitlyn. This has really been helpful to go over. We're going to jump into our conversation with your colleague, Alyssa Young, in just a moment. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about walking and walking away all the pain. But I'd love to have you back and talk about the issue in just the same way. It was really helpful. Thank you. Great issue. Congrats.
Thank you so much, Paul. This was really enjoyable.
Hi, it's Paul. We'll be right back with our Prevention Magazine Healthy Living interview series. We are talking today all about walking away your pain. You're going to want to stay tuned for some great tips from our guest. I mentioned that today's episode of the Not Old Better Show is brought to you by UnitedHealthcare Medicare Plans. At UnitedHealthcare Medicare, they provide coverage you can count on for your whole life ahead. For so many of us today, whether you're on a budget or looking for specific benefits, UnitedHealthcare Medicare has plans designed for all stages and ages. As America's most chosen Medicare Advantage brand with coverage that 4 out of 5 members recommend, UnitedHealthcare Medicare builds their plans to be used and trusted. When we were young, we were encouraged to dream big and make grand plans. UnitedHealthcare Medicare believes that dreaming, planning, and doing don't stop as we get older. From choosing your plan to enjoying its benefits, UnitedHealthcare Medicare makes it easier than ever. Count on UnitedHealthcare Medicare to be there every step of the way with easy-to-understand Medicare resources, useful online shopping tools, and trusted Medicare plan experts to guide you. UnitedHealthcare Medicare plans have Medicare Advantage's largest national provider network with 45 years of experience serving members like you. Today's episode was brought to you by UnitedHealthcare Medicare Plans, providing coverage you can count on for your whole life ahead. Medicare Plan Expert is a licensed insurance sales agent producer. UnitedHealthcare Medicare Most Chosen based on total plan enrollment from CMS enrollment data, May 2024. Member recommendations based on Human 8, May 2023. Provider network may vary in local markets. Provider network size based on Zealous Network 360, May 2024. Alyssa Young, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much for having me back. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, I'm always excited to talk with you, too. We learned so much. You, of course, are the senior health editor for nutrition and fitness within the Hearst Lifestyle Group. We know you so well from Prevention Magazine and all of your wonderful work there. October's issue is chock-a-block full of wonderful articles. And of course, we're going to be talking with others about some of the subjects. But I wanted to talk with you about walking this month because we're kind of at this point in the year where the weather changes a little bit. We also might have some leftover issues with pain and with our feet. The October issue really has this excellent piece on walking away the pain, and it just encourages us to kind of develop a walking habit. So I wonder if you'd tell us a little bit about the article in general and give us a sense as to what led to a feature story about walking away the pain, because it's the cover story this month.
Absolutely. So we know that our prevention readers are already big walkers, and we're always looking for a new way to tickle their interest and hopefully tell them something that they might not know yet about walking. And so what we really found quite fascinating is that when you're in pain, taking a walk, it's probably the last thing on your list of fixes, but it could be exactly what you need, because research suggests that walking can actually help improve those everyday aches and discomfort that we experience, as well as help prevent future pain. For instance, there was one study and it showed that low impact exercise therapy, such as walking, could provide as much relief for lower back pain as taking an over-the-counter pain med. And then there was also other research which found that just 20 minutes a day of walking was associated with a lower risk of recurring knee pain in people with osteoarthritis. So the reason walking helps is likely because it's gentle on our joints, and it also helps to strengthen the muscles that supports those joints and our bones. And we also know that consistently moving our body, it's a proven way to help tame inflammation, and inflammation can be a driver of discomfort. And then lastly, there's just those feel-good endorphins that are released whenever we do some sort of physical activity. And so those are also thought to act as a sort of natural pain reliever.
So many benefits. It's just a real remedy. And I think some of this we just aren't even aware of. I mentioned just in kind of our lead up to our conversation that the weather is going to be changing. With the fall weather comes a little bit more cool weather. Can lead to some of us simply saying, I'm going to hang back. I'm not going to go out today. I just feel like it's too cold. And maybe there are even other motivation issues. And the article touches on the struggle to stay motivated. Maybe give us a couple of those tips to how do we get motivated, stay motivated to get out there on our walks?
Yeah, motivation is definitely something all of us have struggled with at some point, especially when the weather turns. So number one is that the age-old slow and steady advice, it's a really good mindset to tap into. It can help prevent you from feeling overwhelmed by creating a new habit. Our experts suggest that starting with just 10 minutes a day of walking, just make that your goal. And do it for a week, and then slowly sort of increase the amount of time that you're walking each week or so. And eventually you'll be shocked by either how long you're walking, how far you're walking, and most importantly, it'll become part of your routine without feeling like you're dragging yourself out every day. And then being consistent with it also goes along to that, because we know that like stopping and starting and a new routine can sort of make it harder to reach your goals. And you also want consistency if you're going to reap the benefits of walking, which is the whole reason that you're lacing up and getting out there every day in the first place. And this one's a fun one, which is listen to some upbeat music. At the very basis, it's just motivating. It makes you feel good. But there's actually some data out there that shows that listening to music we enjoy can have performance enhancing effects. And in the article, we curated a list of some of our staff favorites. They're all up-tempo tunes, and there's everything from Taylor Swift to Luther Vandross in there. So there's definitely something for everyone if you just want to make a playlist with all of prevention's top hits and get out there and walk.
That's great. Yeah, we will have links to this article as well as much of the other information that we're going to be talking about from this month's October Prevention Magazine. Alyssa Young's been our guest. Alyssa, thank you so much for joining us. It's always great to talk to you. We're going to talk to Joyce Shulman in just a moment or two. I know she's been very active with the prevention team over the years, and she's going to talk about why walk. But this is one of the focuses in the issue of October, along with some other great articles, which we'll discuss, including those links that I mentioned. But Alyssa, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks so much, Paul. It's always a joy.
Thanks, Kaitlyn and Alyssa. We're going to move on now to our feature story about walking away pain and how to enjoy walking, how to create a walking community, and much more from Why Walk author Joyce Shulman. In today's episode, Joyce will share her journey from lawyer to entrepreneur. She's going to discuss the importance of staying motivated and offer some practical tips on how to incorporate walking into your daily routine, even when the weather isn't on your side. We'll also dive into how walking is becoming a vital component in healthcare, with Medicare plans now offering walking tours and group classes to promote health and wellness for seniors. So grab your walking shoes and get ready to be inspired by Joyce Shulman's passion and insights. You'll learn why walking is much more than just exercise. It's a pathway to a better life. Let's welcome our guest, returning fan favorite, author Joyce Shulman. Joyce Shulman, welcome back to the program.
It is my pleasure to be here.
It's great to talk to you. This is the fall lead up. I think there's wonderful weather ahead. There's also some challenging weather ahead. We're going to talk about some of those things with you. I hope you'll touch on your book, Why Walk, and a whole bunch of other wonderful things. But let's start talking about walking in general, because I think it's one of the simplest exercises, but it just has these profound benefits. What inspired you to make walking such an important part of our world, and certainly for you?
There is a backstory here, as there often is, to these things that people really embrace as a big part of their mission. And I'll take you back to when I was about 16 years old. I walked into my house after a really bad day and in a really bad mood. And at this point, I have no idea if it was a bad grade or Mean Girls or a boy, or maybe it was nothing, right? Because I was 16. And my dad, who was always an athlete and really understood people and really understood me, he took one look at me and he said, "Go take a walk and then we'll talk." And I took his advice and I walked right back out the front door of my house and I took a 2-mile walk on a beautiful, beautiful spring day. And I remember this moment, like you have those moments in your life that just stay. As I walked back in my house, I realized that my whole mood and perspective had changed. And that day taught me 2 things. It taught me about the power of walking. And it also taught me that there are tools out there that I could use and things that I could do to have a positive impact on how I feel. And that really is where it started, where my passion for walking started.
That's a wonderful story. You got to love dads in the process.
Sure.
They keep us all going. So you mentioned a beautiful spring day. And sometimes the weather just lends itself for these marvelous walks. The nature is out and the wildlife is present. But sometimes the days are not quite as cooperative. How do you stay motivated, especially as we start to get into the fall months and the winter months? I mean, it's wonderful to be out in the fall colors, but it can get chilly. And so we need to embrace that a little bit.
For sure. There are a couple of things, but before we get into cold weather, can we just do a quick shout out to walking in the rain? I don't mean walking in the torrential rain. I don't mean walking in thunder and lightning, but if you can just get yourself out the door, walking in a light fall or spring rain is delicious. The world smells different. You see different things. And if you can just get yourself out the door, walking in the rain is really magical. So we'll put that aside for a minute and talk a little bit about walking in the cold. So it starts with recognizing that there are some particular benefits that come from walking in the cold. It's really good for your immune system, and the air tends to be really clean. For those who think about these things, your body's working a little bit harder, so you're actually burning a little bit more energy when you walk in colder weather. If you need that little oh, I shouldn't do it, you actually should do it.
I love the way you put this. It's always so positive, and it can be so positive for us physically, of course, but there's some real mental benefits to this. Then you have some personal stories, I know, from your work with your new book, Why Walk, as well as other work online that you've done and TED Talks. You really focus on the mental aspects and the mental benefits of walking. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So let's talk about what happens to so many of us during those dark, cold days of winter. Mm-hmm. And to get yourself out the door, you are definitely fighting biology that's telling you to stay warm and cozy and safe in the cave. So it's going to be harder to get out the door. But so many people suffer from some degree of seasonal affective impact. I'm not going to call it disorder, but we have that impact, those gray days, those short days. We need daylight. So the mood boosting power of walking anytime is incredible, as I shared actually for sort of my launch story into this mission. Mm-hmm. And we can talk a little bit about the safety considerations and things you should change when you're walking in the cold. I'd love to share a little bit of that, but let's just focus on the benefits.
Yep.
Getting that daylight on your skin, in your eyes, it's going to help you sleep better. It's going to boost your mood. And there is this feeling of accomplishment when you get yourself out the door on those cold days. Once you do it, and I think, Paul, I think you have to accept the fact that the first 5 or 10 minutes are going to be really unpleasant, right? It's going to feel cold. It's going to be uncomfortable. but your body will warm up and adjust, and you will still get all of those beautiful benefits for your mind, your mood, and your body.
So touch on the safety aspects. I think those are important to kind of bring up.
Yeah. Dress warmly.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take the cold for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Cover the extremities, hands, feet. I cannot emphasize, I know it sounds silly. I can't emphasize enough the value of wool socks. Please don't go out for a long walk in the winter in cotton socks. They will get damp and cold, especially women. We tend to have colder feet, colder hands, and having sort of that gear handy. So a couple of layers, keeping cotton away from your skin, base layer, fleece layer, wind block layer, hat, gloves, wool socks, and go. And if that's not sufficient to walk comfortably, it's 10 below and the wind is blowing. Unless you're someone who's really accustomed to that kind of weather, stay home. So you may have to dial back your typical mileage and route and routine in the winter. But that sort of leads me to the all or nothing mentality, right? I'm sure you hear that from people all the time. Like, if I can't do what I usually do, then, and this is the phrase that drives me crazy, why bother?
But we got to stay motivated at those times. So because that's such a great list that you just gave us about the importance of bundling up and wool socks. We're going to put some links up so that our audience can find out more about Joyce Shulman and her work. But why don't you touch on this idea of staying motivated? There's definitely those days when all of the safety aspects that we wear aren't going to keep us warm, and it's good to rethink that. But there might be some days in between that where you just want to get back out there. And so for those of us who might be new to walking, what do you say to just keep us motivated?
I push back really hard on the word motivation. People say, how do I stay motivated? And for many people, I think they have this idea that they should do the thing or take the walk when they feel motivated and inspired. So the question is, how do I get that feeling like I really want to go? And I think that's where it breaks down, because in my experience, more often than not, the motivation follows the movement. So the answer to that is, do not wait until you feel motivated, because chances are you won't. So there are a couple of ways to help get yourself out the door. This one works really well for me. I will make myself a deal. I will do the thing. I will bundle up. I will walk out the door, and I will walk for 10 minutes. Because remember what I said a little bit ago, how the first 10 minutes are always hard?
Right.
I will walk for 10 minutes. And if I do not feel like continuing, if I am too cold, too uncomfortable, too whatever it is, I will go home and call it a win. 9 times out of 10, if you can get through that first 10 minutes, you're good, because right around then the endorphins start to fire up, your body's warmed up, and you start to feel good and you want to keep going. So never wait until you feel motivated.
My thanks to our great group today, Alyssa Young, Kaitlyn Phoenix, and of course, Joyce Shulman, author of the excellent book, Why Walk. You will find links in our notes today for each of the October Prevention Magazine stories that we touched on, as well as for direct links to Joyce Shulman and all of her work. My thanks to UnitedHealthcare Medicare Plans. At UnitedHealthcare, we provide coverage you can count on for your whole life ahead. My thanks to all of you, our special Not Old Better Show Prevention Magazine Healthy Living interview series here on radio and podcast. My thanks to executive producer Sam Hanniger. Thank you, our audience, for tuning in. Remember, knowledge is power, and it's never too late to live your best life. The Not Old Better Show Prevention Magazine Healthy Living Wellness interview series. That's a mouthful. Check out the October 2024 edition. It's available now on newsstands everywhere. And please sign up for the Prevention Magazine Prevention Premium Program. You're just going to find that to be just so complete with everything that we have talked about. All of this will be in our show notes today, so please be well and be safe. And remember, let's talk about better. The Not Old Better Show Prevention Magazine Health and Wellness Interviews Series. Until next month, stay informed and stay healthy. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next time.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Not Old Better Show on radio and podcast. To find out more about all of today's stories or to view our extensive back catalog of previous shows, simply visit notold-better.com. Join us again next time as we deep dive into some of the most fascinating real-life stories from across the world, all focused on this wonderful experience of getting better, not just older. Let's talk about better. The Not Old Better Show.
Hi, one final thing. Please check out our website for this episode and all episodes at notold-better.com, or subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, and be sure to check out your local radio stations to find out more about the Not Old Better Show on podcast and radio. You can find us all over social media. Our Twitter feed is Not Old Better, and we're on Instagram at Not Old Better too. The Not Old Better Show is a production of NOBS Studios. I'm Paul Vogelzang, and I hope you'll join me again next time to talk about better. The Not Old Better Show. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.